Welcome to part 2 of this series on developing for elementary OS. This one we are going to be making our first example application called Hello World. So what we'll cover in this episode is setting up the folder structure for our Hello World application, writing some source code in Vala. We'll have a brief introduction to a few GTK objects. Then we'll use ValaC for compiling our source code, and then we'll push the code to Launchpad. So first thing we need to do is set up our directories for writing our elementary OS applications, and we're going to do this by creating a folder called Projects in our home directory. And then in that folder, we're going to create a folder called GTK Hello. And then in GTK Hello, we'll create a folder called SRC, which stands for source. So I have files open here, and I've got it open to my home directory. So I'm going to go to New, Folder, and we're going to call this Projects, and then in this folder we're going to say New Folder, and we'll call it GTK Hello. And then in this folder we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call it SRC. And now we've got our structure. So I'm going to go into this SRC folder. You can see it's empty, and we'll move on to the next step. So the next step is to create a file called gtkhello.vala inside our source folder, and then we'll start adding some source code in there. So we'll make a new empty file, and that file we're going to call gtkhello.vala, and we are going to open that with Scratch. So you can see here that I have my empty GTK -hello.vala file, and there's nothing in here. So the first thing we are going to add is our main function, and I will type it out for you. So it's int main, and it takes an argument, and that'll be string args. So the argument is args, and it's going to be type of strings, and main is a function that is type of int. So being as it's type of int, that means we need it to return an integer. In this case, we'll return 0. Also in there, we are going to drop in GTK init, and we'll reference our args in there, and that'll be a function invocation. Okay. If you see me typing random characters like this, it's because I'm a Vim user, so I'm trying to navigate around. In future videos I will use Vim. But just to show you what it's like to use Scratch, I'm using Scratch for now. So this is it for our main function here. I actually want to show you how we can build this function. If you followed along in the tutorial, you'll see that this comes later, but I'm sort of thinking that the more you build, the more you compile, the sort of sooner you'll catch any of your mistakes as you're getting used to the syntax. I am just the same. I will be making a lot of mistakes myself, so I will be building as I go along. So in order to build this, we need to cd to our projects folder, our GTK hello folder, and our source. And then in here, the command to build our application is valac. And then we are going to want to package that up with GTK plus. And we want that to be the 3.0 version, and then the file that we are going to compile is our GTK -hello vala. And you can see that I got no errors there, so it compiled just fine. Now technically we can run this file with // and then GTK hello. And you can see that nothing happens, which is perfectly expected because we haven't really told the function to do anything. But if we're to clear this and then list what's in there, you can see now in our folder we have gtk-hello.vala. We've got our scratch file, that's the one with a little tilde after it. That's just our little temporary scratch file. And then you can see highlighted in green we have gtk-hello. Alright, so let's carry on. We've written our main function, we've built and compiled. Next we want to go ahead and create a new GTK window object or widget. So in order to do this, we will come down here, and the first thing that we want to do, I'll do it exactly the way it's done in the tutorial, and then I'll quickly turn around and change things, and I'll explain why. So we write var for variable, and we give our variable a name called window, and that variable called window is going to equal a new instance of gtk.window, and we will invoke that. Okay. Now we have a variable called window, and we can and it's an instance of GTK window, and we can have access to all of the various methods, the setters and getters that a GTK window object has, and we can then set our window title and our border and various other features. So let's go ahead and do that now. So with window.title, we can set that to hello world, and we can also set the border, and that method is window.set_border and underscore width, and that is a method, so we'll give that a value of 12. And then we have, let's see, window set position, and that again is another method. So we'll say window.set_position. That is a method, and we want to say GTK window position center. So using the GTK object as a reference, we say window position, and we say center. Center, because it's all in caps, I would assume is a constant. And then next we want to set the default window size. So that is window set_default. I'm having a terrible time typing in a non-Vim editor. Size, and the size we'll give it is 350 by 70, and we'll close that off with a semicolon. And the last thing we want to do is we want to wire up a close button so that we have a way to close this window. And we are going to do that with window dot destroy and connect, and GTK main underscore quit is the method there, and we'll close that off. And then finally we will use GTK dot main to run, and there we go. So let's see if we made any mistakes, and we'll save this and we will build and compile it. So we go up a few here, Valic double dash package GTK plus dash 3.0 and GTK hello.vala. And we have no compile errors. Let's see what happens if we run it. And we get a error when we try and run it, and it says GTK-critical GTK settings get for screen assertion GTK is screen failed. I have no idea what this means, but it's a seg fault. So let's see if we can debug our code and figure out where we went wrong. So var window equals new GTK window is correct. Var title is correct. Set border width is correct. Set position is a method with GTK window position dot center is correct. Window set underscore default size and 2 values is correct. Window.destroy.connect is a method, and it takes GTK main underscore quit. That is correct. And we have, oh, I know what it is. We have put our initialize function in the wrong spot. So GTK as an object is not available to us because we haven't initialized it. So let's see if I'm right. Go down here and we'll compile it. We'll run it. And there we go. It is running. I don't see my window. That could be a problem. Control C that to quit that application. Okay, now I see. I think I see what I'm missing. I have forgotten to add window dot show underscore all, and that's how we get our window to show. So let's save that. Let's compile again and run our application, and there we go. We have a visible window, and when we click it, it closes. Okay, perfect. So the next thing we're going to do, now that we've added our window object, we are going to add a button. So we're going to create a new GTK button object. We're going to configure the button and add the button to the window and show that button and run. Okay, so we'll come in here and just above the show all, we're going to add a new variable, and this one is going to say button hello, and that is going to be a new instance of GTK button, and that's going to be with a underscore label. And the label we're going to give it is click me. Okay. Now we need to provide an event handler for our button. So when the button is clicked, we'll say button hello dot clicked, and we're going to connect an event to this, and we'll just add a lambda in here, and this will be what will we put in here? We will say button underscore hello dot label equals, and we'll say hello world. And then if we follow along with the tutorial, it says to add a sensitive. So we'll say button sensitive false. I'm not entirely sure what that does. Maybe it disables the button. We'll find out. And we will close that off. Now, in order to see this button in the window, actually, let me just show you what happens if we don't. So we'll come down here, and we will compile our application. Oh, we have an error. Button does not exist. Of course, it does not. So hopefully you can see that using the compiler frequently allows you to see and understand some of the errors that you may make, some of the type errors and syntax errors. So we'll save that. We'll compile it. Oh, invocation not supported in this context, button hello sensitive false. So we got the syntax wrong on because it is not set sensitive. It is not sensitive, it is set sensitive. So the compiler is saving me every step of the way here. Okay, now we've compiled and we'll run our application. Now keep in mind we didn't add the button to the window, so we're not going to see our button. That's what happens when you don't add the button to the window. So we'll come down here and we'll say window.add, and we are going to pass in our button object, our button widget. And we'll compile this and run it, and there you go. We've got our hello world, and if I click it, it says hello world, and it looks like the button hello set sensitive false disables the button. We can confirm that by just commenting out this line and seeing what happens. Compile it, run it, and yep, that is correct. So that set sensitive to false actually disables the button after it's been clicked. So that is a handy feature to know. So this pretty much covers the first part of the Hello World application. Now, I had said I was going to mention something about using the var keyword. Using the var keyword doesn't really tell the program anything about the type that you're setting. I'm sort of, when you're using a strictly typed language, I'm in favor of actually defining the types that you intend to use. So it makes your code a lot easier to read, and it limits the amount of documentation you have to do. So in this particular case, I know that this is going to be a GTK window data type. So instead of saying var window, I'd say GTK window. Window equals new GTK window. In the case of our button widget, I would say GTK.button button hello equals new GTK button with label. That helps me read that and understand that this variable, if I was to go look up the definition of this variable button underscore hello, I'd be able to immediately tell that it's meant to be a GTK button data type. But just to show that this works equally as well, I will compile this and run it, and you can see that it still works. Okay, so we've built our first Hello World application. Now we're going to cover pushing this to Launchpad, and that is our last slide here. Now keep in mind, I've never used Bazaar. I am a Git user. I am going to assume that things are similar, but we'll have to see. So what we're going to do is similar to Git. We will initialize the repository, we'll add the files that we want tracked, we'll commit our changes, and we'll push the results to Launchpad. And hopefully this is all successful. This is my first experience using Bazaar. So down in our terminal, we are in our source folder, but we actually want the initialized repository to be up one level for GTK-hello. So we'll cd up one level, and if we list that, you can see that our source folder is in there. And so we're going to use the command bzr init, and then we're going to use the command bzr add source and GTK hello is the file that we're going to add. And then we're going to do bzr commit with a message flag, and the message we're going to give it is create initial structure and create window with a button. And we're going to please set your username with who am I, bzr who am I, and I'm going to say Adam Merrifield, and cagp@gmail.com. Don't spam me, bro. Okay, so we'll try this command again, and we've succeeded. And so the last thing to do is to bzr push, and that looks like an LP. LP, this syntax is completely foreign to me. Slash plus junk, I have no idea what this means. I will have to do some reading on Bazaar dash hello. No idea what any of that means. I presume I'm pushing it to like a junk folder. Anyway, we'll see. Yes. And we've created our new branch. So why don't we go have a look. We'll open up Chrome. And we'll go to launchpad.net. Adam Merrifield, and let's see if we have anything in here. Code. Oh, look at that. We do. We have our code that we pushed up just now. Browse the code. source gtk hello.vala, and there it is. There's our code up on Launchpad. Very exciting. Okay, so in review, we created a new project containing a source folder. We created the main Vala file and used our first GTK objects. We built and ran the source code, and we completed the first revision and pushed our changes up to Launchpad. Hope you enjoyed that lesson, and we will get back into it in the next episode, and we'll cover making our first application, in which we'll cover all the things that we covered now, but we'll restructure everything in a more best practices manner and add a few more features. Until then,